Hello, my name is David. This is my very first video review of whiskey, and I thought what better way to introduce myself and the kind of whiskey that I like to drink and share with my friends than to go over my favorite distillery at the moment and some of the bottles that I have in my collection that I've drank. The distillery is Bruichladdich, and Bruichladdich is a Scotch whiskey on the island of Islay, which is on the west coast of Scotland. And Islay is known for peaty, smoky, phenolic whiskeys. And there's a number of distilleries on this island that have these characteristics. One of the interesting things about Bruichladdich, though, is that they reopened their doors and started distilling recently under a master distiller from Bowmore called Jim McEwan. And Jim McEwan is kind of a Willy Wonka of sorts of distilling. People have described him that way because of his creativity. I believe that the quality coming out of Bruichladdich at the moment is some of the best in the world, definitely in Scotland, but as far as quality goes, even at the young age that they're bottling right now because of their youth, the quality's top notch, and I really don't think you can go wrong with a Bruichladdich product right now. So if you're in your local store and you see any Bruichladdich, feel free to grab that up, especially if it's in a good price point for you. Their price ranges can range anywhere from $50, which is really a low end for Bruichladdich. That's their introductory price, all the way up as much as you want to spend. And I've been fortunate enough to pick up a couple of higher priced bottles due to the whiskey tasting group that I started here in New Mexico, and I've been able to come home with those bottles, which is really fortunate for me because otherwise some of these just aren't in my price range. But okay, let's start with the first one that I want to talk about, and this is the first bottle that's in my collection. See if you can see this. This is Bruichladdich Islay Barley, and it's got you see this nice yellow tin can here. Islay Barley is what this one's called, and this is a very young whiskey. This is actually, let's pull that out. You see I've made a huge dent in this bottle. Couple of drams left in there maybe. Islay Barley is Bruichladdic's attempt to bring an all organic or all they're bringing the barley back to Islay and growing it on the island. And this is really interesting because the Islay gets their barley from the mainland, and they buy it from producers who grow, farmers who grow barley. And Bruichladdich said, well, 100 years ago, they used to grow barley on Islay, and Islay has an interesting atmosphere to it. It has different climates and everything. And it's since it is an island, it has lots of sea spray and different characteristics. It's basically a huge granite slab with a huge amount of peat or organic material that's been decomposing, turns into a spongy material that sits on this huge granite slab. And they said, wouldn't it be interesting if we grew our own barley right here on the island for the first time in 100 years? Nobody else is doing it, and this is their first attempt to bottle this product from their own barley. So this is very, very interesting and exciting. And what you taste in here is you taste something that's completely unique to Islay, something with salty sea spray, seaweedy, peaty tones. This is not a peated whiskey, but the interesting thing is that since Bruichladdich is on Islay, they've grown the barley there in the soil. That's the peat soil. They have the water comes from Islay, which is coming filtered straight through peat. You're getting a peaty characteristic to it, not a smoked peaty characteristic, but you're getting something really interesting. And that comes across in this. My only thing with this is it says aged 5 years. That's very, very young to be aging a whiskey, especially a Scotch whiskey. Anymore, people are starting to be okay with bottling younger whiskeys in Scotland. Usually they'd be like, oh, 10 years is the bare minimum. But now the quality is so high that they'll bottle it a little bit younger. I do think that this is really young. I think that when we see a 10-year-old Islay barley, I say snatch it up, because this thing is going to be incredible what they're doing with this thing. It's an organic, all Islay produced whiskey. Nothing's being shipped over from the mainland. That's really interesting. And I highly recommend this. If you see the 5-year-old, I recommend getting it. It is young. It's got a lot of zip to it. That alcohol taste is definitely there from the distillation. It's definitely worth looking out for. And I think this runs for about $60, $50, somewhere in that price range. So not too expensive. They're selling it at a good price point. You get the quality of Bruichladdich distillation there. All right, the second one is another cool tin here, the Laddie tin. This is what Bruichladdich calls their flagship 10-year-old. And what they mean is they reopen their doors. This is the very first 10-year-old whiskey that they bottled after they reopened the doors and started distilling under Jim McEwan. So this is his baby, and wow, did they just hit it out of the park on this one. Really interesting thing about Bruichladdich, they're known for smoky phenolic whiskeys, and this flagship 10-year-old unpeated. It says right here, unpeated whiskey. You can see this label here. It says right here, the first 10 years are the toughest. Definitely true for a whiskey distillery. They're sitting on lots of stock. They're trying to make money out of their distillery, but what they're going for is sitting in casks, and they're just waiting for it to mature for 10 years. Got to be tough. It says here, the definitive American oak matured Bruichladdich and our first flagship 10-year-old. So what I get out of this, and by the way, this is third bottle of this that I have drank. This is outstanding stuff. In fact, I bought my brother a bottle of this for his birthday because I was so impressed with it. This says it's unpeated, but you're going to taste peat. Again, the water's filtered through peat. The whole island is covered in peat. So you're going to get that characteristic to it, but you get that salt sea spray. It's a really thick, oily whiskey, even though it's not smoked and peated. It's got a great character to it. It just coats your mouth, stays there forever. You can enjoy this dram for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's going to continue to evolve and change. Bottled at 46%, which is their bare minimum. That's good. 46 is a bare minimum I think that a whiskey should be bottled at. And this is outstanding stuff right here. Something that a lot of people talk about that I don't I talk about this with this whiskey, and a lot of people don't notice it. Or they don't. At least I haven't seen any videos that talk about it. But I nose this, and I get this wonderful Dijon mustardy type of spiciness to it, and it's so it makes you hungry. You know, this is something that you drink before a meal, and you'll just salivate before your dinner. So, highly recommend this. I give this high marks, so I'm not gonna give a mark or anything for this right now, but you can watch some other blogs that do mark this. It's very high. I highly recommend it. This is about $50. Can't get better for $50 than this. Alright, so moving up the food chain here in Bruichladdich, getting to some really exciting stuff, a little bit higher price range. This is the first bottle I got of Port Charlotte 7. They've bottled the Port Charlotte 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this is the 7. So this is a 7-year-old. Of course, they're a new distillery, so they've been counting up years and bottling a little at a time. This bottle is bottled at 61% alcohol. It is bottle 21,499 of 24,000. So pretty limited edition bottle here. Bottled at cask strength, natural color, of course. Everything in Bruichladdich is natural. They don't put anything in their whiskeys that's not natural. That doesn't come out of the cask. So this is cask strength. This is the quality right here. You're looking at about $100 for a bottle of this. And if you're in that price range, you have to get this. If you're a whiskey fan and you have $100 to spend on a bottle or go in on it with a friend, this is the one to get. Or any Port Charlotte for that matter. Real quick, I just bought a bottle of Port Charlotte 7. I found it at one of our local liquor stores here, and I bought another bottle. I'm not opening this one. I'm going to hang on to this one. This is going in my collection. I just want to point something out here. This is bottle 21,499. This is bottle 21,466. So I got this one before this one. This one's younger, but I'm guessing this is probably the same cask. This is probably the same exact cask. At least, yeah, I hope it is. So I know that the quality, I know that this right here, this one is outstanding. So I know that this one, I know exactly what's in this bottle. And I like that. Because it's going to go into my collection and I'm going to sit on it for a year or two. And then on a very special occasion when I can't get Port Charlotte 7 anymore, I'm going to be able to open it up and I'm going to be able to drink it with some friends. So, that's my Port Charlotte 7. Moving on. I got this one for my birthday. Again, another Port Charlotte 8. This is just a year older than Port Charlotte 7. Not that much different. If you hold them side by side, there's a little bit color difference. I don't know why there is. Really, the color comes in the first year or so, or a couple of months. But it's a little bit darker. And this one's individually bottled as well, or it's labeled by how many bottles they bottled. This is Port Charlotte 8. You can get Port Charlotte 10 now. If you see it, you should grab it. And highly recommend this. These are heavily peated, and these Port Charlottes are at 44 parts per million of a phenol level, which is a heavily peated whiskey. That's about Lagavulin level. And this next one is peated much heavier. Remember when I said Jim McEwan was kind of the Willy Wonka of whiskeys? Well, that's what he is. Because he came up with this Octomore. Now, I got this bottle from my whiskey club, the tasting we did. We sampled a little bit out of this bottle, and then I was fortunate enough by the distributor to be handed this bottle at the end of the night, which is great because this will run you about $180 or more. And this is a limited edition out of 15,000, and this particular one here is 167 parts per million of the phenol content. It's heavily peated. In fact, it's so heavily peated that you almost, it doesn't taste as smoky as the Port Charlotte. Maybe that's something to do with the chemistry and the overload of these phenol levels in on your palate, but you don't taste as much. It just comes across as like a dark chocolate after dinner wonderful dessert type of whiskey. And I gotta say, this is something special. I try to hold on to as long as I can, because I try to only taste this when I have friends over who haven't tasted it and that like whiskey. So that's the only time I ever taste this, because it's just so outstanding. It's the quality is unmatched in any other whiskey that I have here in my house. This is bottled at cask strength 62.5% alcohol, and it's 5 years old, so it's really young. And now there's a Octomore 10-year-old, and that's gonna run you a cool $200. If you can afford a $200 whiskey, you're doing good. But I've been fortunate enough to be able to hang on to this bottle. Really great packaging that Bruichladdich does, and really eye-catching. I highly recommend any of these products here. Going with some friends on a bottle of Octomore and do a tasting, you will not be dissatisfied. You will, in fact, you'll probably fall in love. So that is my Bruichladdich collection, and there will be more reviews in the future. Hope you liked this one, and thanks for watching.